Hello, hello. It's another week. Let's continue with Wanderlust. We were halfway on Tomek's story. Um, Let me see. He traveled from Warsaw, Poland, to Barcelona, Spain. And let's see how the story unfolds. It's almost 7 p.m. Tomek is actually very tired. And we have only 212 euros. I hope he gets to see her. La Rambla. I stood in front of the Columbus Monument, looking up toward the main street of Barry Gothic, the oldest part of the city. The sun was blasting down, and swarms of sweaty, chatty, slightly sunburned tourists filled La Rambla. I remembered the last time I was here. We started from the Columbus Monument and walked against the current of tourists, like someone swimming upstream. We held hands, talked, laughed, and slowly drifted away from the crowds. La Rambla was for tourists, and we were too focused on each another to even notice where we were. I walked up the street. Bloody tourist. I heard a soft chuckle behind me. There's always someone's ass in your way when you want to take a decent picture. I spun around. There was a man with a camera behind me. The lens attached to it meant business. He was tall, a bit scruffy looking, and had the greenest eyes I've ever seen. I'm sorry, I said, and moved out of his way toward a gap in the crowd. I continued up La Rambla, shaded by the plane trees on either side of the street. I looked around, admiring the architecture. It was so different from what I was used to in Warsaw. So much more Mediterranean. I like the panache and order of things here. The small cafes and flower stalls, the traffic on both sides of La Rambla, even the swarms of tourists. The city felt lived in, embracing you like a perfectly tailored suit. I shook my head. I didn't even know where that thought had come from. I found myself in front of a souvenir shop and looked inside. There they were, the most bizarre things I could remember from last year. When I first saw them, I couldn't believe my eyes. There were rows of figurines depicting famous people, real and imaginary, all squatting with their pants down and an unmistakable turd below their naked butt cheeks. El Caganes. I'm not sure I'm reading it right. She said, oh wait, it's a she. Els Caganes, she said when I pointed to them. There's always been one in the Catalan nativity, cheating happily to show people that even in the presence of God, poo always wins. It was a weird tradition. Should I buy one? I had mixed feelings. That was enough of the hustle and bustle of La Rambla for me. What next? Maybe El Raval? I was sure that a year ago we were heading away from the sea, away from the tourist traps. El Sampe? More options. Well, I guess that's the only option. There you are. The example. I hope I really read it there right. A grid of buildings that all look the same. Streets like canyons, rows of trees, plenty of parked cars. But I remembered there was a bar on one of the smaller streets, and I knew exactly how to reach it. Oh, we got to go there. For a moment, I felt lost in the maze of almost identical buildings. Soon, I saw the bar where we spent that night 1 year ago. Oh, maybe I'll come back later. I still had some time to figure out what I wanted from the meeting. Okay, El Raval. El Raval. I remembered students on skateboards. The relaxed atmosphere and a nice restaurant. The bar might be somewhere in the area, but I wasn't sure. It's okay. El Raval. Before I went to Barcelona last year, my friend who studied there in the late 90s warned me about El Raval. Apparently, it was easier to buy dope there than to find a decent coffee place. It's changed a lot since then. I stood in front of a sculpture of a gigantic cat. It was almost black in the sunlight, staring at tourists with a hint of melancholy. I decided to eat something. The waitress resembled the chubby brass cat and flooded me with words in Catalan that I didn't understand. She didn't speak English, and when I used some rudimentary Spanish, her eyes narrowed. I could swear I saw a tail swishing angrily behind her. "Do you need help?" asked someone behind me. The man looked like he stepped out of an American Surf poster. He was tall, tanned, and had tousled blonde hair. He flashed his perfect American smile at me. "Yes, please," I said. "I'm hungry." He spoke Catalan fluently, with just a hint of an accent. The waitress shrugged and went into the kitchen. I ordered you the house special," he said. "They have some amazing seafood here." I ate, he talked. Okay, I hope he's not late. The Catalans didn't like strangers, he explained. Their history was complicated enough to be mistrustful. I asked how he learned the language. His family was from here, he explained. He learned it as a child from his grandparents. His grandfather never learned to speak English very well, and he refused to speak Spanish, so it was the only language they could communicate in. His grandmother spoke French, Spanish, and Catalan. Why did he refuse to speak Spanish? I asked. His smile vanished for a moment. It's complicated, he said. Let's just say that it had a lot to do... Oh my god, is that... Oh, that's a wrong accent. Let's just say that it had a lot to do with Montjuic and the Civil War. I finished my meal and thanked him and the waitress with my newly learned merci. The street I took headed toward Placa de Catalunya. It was time to meet her. Yes. It was time to go to the bar. Outside the bar, peaceful. The bar was on the other side of the street. Through the windows, I could see it was crowded inside. People were laughing, talking excitedly, sitting alone with drinks, some with noses in their phones, some making a toast. The crowd spilled outside and occupied tables scattered on the sidewalk. Music pulsed through the fragrant air. The bar, an island of light and laughter beneath the trees and dark, high walls of the apartment blocks. I looked at the souvenir I bought at the zoo, wondering how she'll react. I scanned the crowd, looking for her face, but she was nowhere to be seen. She was probably sitting inside, or late like I was. I was glad for the chance to collect my thoughts. This trip had been tiring, no doubt about that. But I couldn't remember the last time I felt so peaceful and at ease. The crowd in the bar was so colorful and alive. The city so full of wonder and beauty. So friendly that I felt like I could just stay there forever. The only thing I lacked was someone to share the moment with. Was that not the most important thing? Human contact? Back home, blinded by stress and stuck in my routine, I'd grown used to being alone. During my journey, The brightest points were the unexpected meetings and conversations, the brief windows that allow me to see into the lives of others. I couldn't be sure if the girl would be waiting for me in the bar. But even if she wasn't, I was sure to meet someone worth talking to. I look at the faded Polaroid for a last time. And then I look around me. Everything was like the year before. Warm, balmy air, music, Barcelona, a crowd outside a bar. Still no sign of her. Holding the picture in my sweaty hand, I cross the street and walk toward the bar. The music grew louder. The crowd surrounded me, and as I reached for the door, a thought crossed my mind. I hope she's not afraid of traveling. I finished the story. Tomek didn't think he would be brave enough to go on this trip, but he couldn't forget about the woman. He didn't know what would he do if she wasn't waiting for him. Quite cool. And we don't know if Tomek actually met her or not. Let's see. Let's go back to Easter Island. Wow, the waves are beautiful. What comes next? As the silence grew, it became clear that the story was over. That was a great story. Martin looked overjoyed. I was afraid you'd chicken out right until the end. But was she waiting for you? Adelia asked. What happened to her? He just smiled. That's another story, and I've already told mine for today. Adelia and Tomek had a rough start. Perhaps he reminded her of her husband too much. I couldn't believe all that counting and planning you did at the beginning. And yet, in the end, it wasn't important at all, Adelia said. Wasn't it scary for you? I think I picked too much. Wasn't it scary for you? Actually, it was. Exactly. That was the point. The whole trip was about leaving my comfort zone, Tomek exclaimed. It took some planning, but I managed to do it, and I'm better for it. Good for you, Henry laughed. But was there anything you really needed to be scared of? They discussed it for a while, but then a new round of beers arrived. It's fucking expensive in here. Henry shook his head. Have you noticed? You can afford it, Dad. Henriette raised her glass. You know what I think? All our traveling is just a reckless ego trip. Tomek let out a long sigh. We claim to be all the wiser for it, but sorry, let me read it again. We claim to be all the wiser for it, but all we're really looking for is our own satisfaction and a thrill, no matter what it costs us or others. They sat and talked long after the sun had set. So, who's telling a story tomorrow? Tomek asked when the party started to break up. Woohoo, chapter 3. How did he ended up in Papua New Guinea? Wow. Okay, who else? Martin is Bangladesh. Who else? Wow. How did they end up? Oh, 2 hours. Henriette's story. To Antarctica. Whoa. Adela. Africa. I think let's go for Henry's story. It's 2+ hours, roughly. All right. Ooh, the Moy. The lonely statue. There was a distinct chill in the twilight air. They sat there, suspended between night and day. The smell of the sea and the sound of the waves were even more noticeable. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the row of giant silhouettes appeared against the brightening sky. They sat on their blankets, yawning and whispering, trying not to disturb the atmosphere of the Rapa Nui sunrise. "Did you see the statue near the entrance?" asked Martine when they went for a walk sometime later. "I wonder why they put it there." There was one statue standing with its back to the others, isolated from the main ahu. "Maybe it's a guardian," suggested Adelia. "Or maybe it just needed solitude," smiled Henriette. "We all need some from time to time, and I guess my story is about that." She took a sip from a thermos, giving them time to focus. "Sometimes the sea beckons and I have to answer," she said, looking at the waves. Sea fever. Antarctica. Oh, the penguins are so cute. Is that one in the middle? Oh, so cute. Our apartment, London. Are you ready, darling? I took a long quizzical look at my sea bag and then at my husband. He was leaning against the door, graceful as a cat. Our cat, by comparison, was a shapeless blob of fluff. She stared coldly at me from the hallway, clearly disgruntled by my packing. I smiled, reached out and took a manila folder from the nightstand. I still don't understand why you do it, he said, and I sensed some tension under his callous smile. Was he worried? You know me, I just have to. This was an old discussion. I felt the weight of the manila folder in my hand before pushing it into the bag. And I haven't really decided about the case yet. I pulled tightly on the drawstring. You must go down to seas again, to the lonely sea and the sky, he said, hugging me. You and your sea fever. Says the man who's been around the world twice. But I've never sailed to the Antarctic on a tall ship. It is quite tall, isn't it? I sighed into his chest. He chuckled. I looked up. You're worried. I confirmed my suspicion. His back was unusually tense. What's wrong? Darling, you're sailing into the Antarctic. I'm scared you're going to fall into the sea and freeze or be eaten by a bear. I shook my head and sighed. You're lucky I married you for your looks. And you're being overprotective. I'll be fine. I'll be back at the beginning of December, just in time for Christmas preparations. You better be. If you're not, you'll miss your birthday present. Looking out of the window. It was raining, of course, when I boarded the train to Oxfordshire. I'd planned to take a standard flight to Sao Paulo, and fly to San Diego, and from there to Punta Arenas. But then, I realized that I needed to clear my head and have some sort of privacy before being locked up with 8 other people for 5 weeks. A military plane was just the ticket. I'll fly straight to the Falkland Islands, with only one stop to refuel in Cape Verde. I'd never been to the Falkland Islands before. But of course, Dad had been there before I was born. There were some photographs of the islands that used to grace the walls of his study. I always thought it was Scotland. The same bare rocks, the same grey skies. No wonder the British were so fond of them. RAF Briss Norton, Oxfordshire. The plane was huge, unattractive, and surprisingly comfortable. It looked like I was the only civilian on board. Henry, boomed a voice behind me in a broad Scottish accent. How do I do a Scottish accent? I'm just gonna skip that. Young Henry Taylor. I felt myself grin from year to year. I turned around and was immediately embraced by a boulder of a man. It's good to see you, Alastair. Are you the co-pilot? Aye, that I am, lass. How are you, Dan? Off to your big Antarctica trip, aye? He looked over my shoulder. And you're there? Oh, he's going the tourist route this time, on a cruise. He passed on 5 weeks of acute discomfort and the chance. Oh wait, I think this was the guy. He passed on 5 weeks of acute discomfort and the chance to freeze his bollocks off. Ha! He is getting old. Has he started working again? You know, since... No, I answered. My good mood suddenly disappeared. The tarmac looked more drab and grey than before. And a gust of cold wind rushed past, chilling me to the bone. Are you alright, lass? Not really, no. Like Dad used to say, somebody just walked over my grave. He put his hand on my shoulder and sighed. The Germans call it rice fiber. Then they fret yourself over it, lass. I nodded, but something told me it wasn't so simple. On a plane working. The manila folder felt heavy in my hands as I leafed through the papers again. The case was a representative action against a major multinational. I can't mention any names, but you've all heard of them, I'm sure. It was a noble cause, but likely to be tied up in court for the foreseeable future. I'd have to spend hours upon hours searching for precedent, going over everything with a fine-tooth comb so we could make a nuanced case. If I went for it, I'll be buried for months, maybe years. I'll be stuck in London working long, tedious hours, lively appealing and reappealing. I suppose that's the price you had to pay for justice. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and sighed. Cabo Verde. Somehow, I'd managed to sleep through the landing in Cape Verde. I woke up when Alastair shook my arm. Coffee? Yes, that would be lovely, I said, trying to shake off the unpleasant dreams I'd had. I took the cup and looked at the manila folder in my lap. The documents had fallen onto the floor while I was asleep. Careful not to spill the coffee, I put the documents back and closed the folder. The strange sense of foreboding crept up on me again. On a plane heading south. We took off and the AC kicked in, blasting me with cold air. Antarctica, the last free place on Earth. No civilization, no nations, no governments. The only human activity allowed there was for science. In theory, at least, as long as the treaty held. From time to time, I could make out the lights of lonely ships in the vast ocean thousands of feet below. This time, I didn't dream. Everything just seemed to slip away. The only thing that was real was the journey ahead. Mount Pleasant, the Falkland Islands. Military aircraft do not land gracefully. They drop from the sky toward the unsuspecting ground. I ran my tongue around my teeth after we slammed down. I could swear some of them had been knocked into my skull. I left the plane and was greeted by the cool, salty air. Damp moorland covered the landscape for as far as the eye could see. I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply, taking it all in. I couldn't wait. I was at the edge of the world, on my way to board a decent-sized boat and sail some of the wildest waters on Earth. And I felt like I'd just been given my first case all over again. I looked around to see if anyone was there to meet me. He was waiting for me outside. For a moment, I thought my husband was right, and there actually were bears in the Antarctic. Just grizzlies, not polar bears. Rado! We patted each other on the shoulder and shook forearms firmly. How's it going, kid? Do you want to go straight to the yacht? How's it going, kid? Do you want to go straight to the yacht? Or do you fancy some penguin watching? Penguin, yes. Penguins, yes! I'd love to see some. Bertha's Beach. Rado parked as close as he could to the beach. A sea lion colony greeted us with a chorus of trumpets and barks. We could see some of them surfing the breakers that were rolling in off the ocean. Even though they flopped around the beach awkwardly, the moment they were in the water, they moved with such swiftness and grace. I watched them, transfixed, and almost forgot about the penguins. Rado tugged at my sleeve. The dazzling white sand, which reminded me of the beaches I'd seen in the Caribbean, was speckled with washed-up kelp. The waves boomed and crashed. Albatrosses drifted overhead, and the vast expanse of water made me feel oddly elated. I was almost jumping up and down with excitement. How far away are the penguins? We walked for what seemed like miles and miles. At some point, we had to cross an ice-cold stream barefoot, which had us cursing and howling with laughter as we made our way through the frigid water. Just when we lost all hope and decided to head back, 3 penguins swam to shore, got out of the water, and waddled past us, completely ignoring our presence. Soon, the penguins everywhere. Soon, there were penguins everywhere. I thought they looked like kindergartners dressed in tuxedos. The road to Stanley. I woke up suddenly and saw low grass-covered hills rolling past me. You know, it's uncanny, Rado said. This ability of yours to fall asleep in 30 seconds? How do you do it? I shrugged. No idea. And it only works when I sail. I have terrible bouts of insomnia when I'm in London. Probably doesn't sound British, but okay. 2 churches, a post office, a police station, and a school. Stanley was not a big town. All friends. The yacht was beautiful. Its sleek, well-built hull was painted a stunning vermilion that could be seen from miles away. Its tall mast and huge solid winches looked like they were ready for everything nature could throw at them. 5 other people were already on board, and the other 2 were joining us in Ushuaia. The first person I bumped into was Chris. Typical, he said. I just made myself the perfect cup of coffee and you appeared. I should have known. I gave him a hug. Good to see you too, you grumpy old bugger, I said. He pushed a cup of coffee into my hands. Bow cabin, dips on the logo bunk. I wasn't tired, but once I climbed into my bunk and unrolled the sleeping bag, I decided to close my eyes for a moment. No dreams came, just a peaceful night's sleep. The last day on shore. The morning on the yacht was crisp. These temperatures would take some getting used to. Let me think about work. I reached for the folder and started going through the files. Put that down this instant, Chris pointed his finger at me, or I'll toss it into the sea the minute we set sail. I decided to go for a walk instead. Grab me a prepaid SIM card, Rado shouted after me. And don't stay out too long. What is this? So cute. Sorry. There was a sea lion at the end of our pier. Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty. What? I tried to get its attention. It ignored me and started scratching behind its ear with its hind flipper. Kind of like cat. Where shall we go around Stanley? I probably want to buy something before the trip. Shopping. It was the same as any British supermarket. Okay, thought it might be more American. I bought a SIM card for Rado and another for myself so I could WhatsApp my husband before I disappeared for 5 weeks. I wondered briefly how he'll manage here, manage here without his Netflix. And then I asked myself the same question. How would I manage without my Netflix? Would I go through every book in the world? I used to take at least 4 of them on each trip. Now I just had my Kindle and some power banks. There were a few hundred houses scattered across the incline, overlooking the bay. It wasn't much, but there was a swimming pool with a free shower that I'll definitely use later in the evening. I like to go for a walk. Walk by the sea. I met a huge black cat who decided to keep me company. There was one main street, some houses, a very typical British monument, and a church. I felt like I was in a small town somewhere on the British coast. I walked with a spring in my step. The black cat following me curiously. The only cars I saw on the streets were Land Rover Sorry, let me repeat again. The only cars I saw on the streets were Land Rover Defenders, my favorites. I wish they hadn't stopped making them. Souvenirs. The souvenir store was next door to the local restaurant cum hotel cum internet cafe. Look around, dear, said a friendly old lady from behind the counter. Take your time, added another sweet old lady sitting with her tea in an armchair by the window. One of the postcards read, "Keep calm and keep the Falklands British." So this is a British place? Oh, the place is beautiful too. The ladies watch me with warm, benevolent smiles. Bragging to friends back home, are we, dear? The lady gave me a knowing look over her glasses as she packed the postcard. Just letting my dad know where in the world I am. I didn't elaborate on the game Dad and I had been playing for years. But I want the penguin. No, never mind. We heard a fun fact. The Stanley police once employed the only convict they had to answer phones. Sorry, let me read it again. We heard a fun fact. The Stanley police once employed the only convict they had to answer phones and fill in forms because he was sitting around the police station in any case. At least, that's what the lady in the museum told Chris. Have a drink. All around the globe. The nearest pub was called the Globe Tavern and looked typically British. I ordered half the pint, looked around, and started to notice the differences. Nobody was actually drinking from glasses. They all seemed to be nursing small cans of American beer. And the bartender was a very chatty guy from Manila. So was his friend sat at the bar. I ignored them, took my half pint, and went to sit by the window. An hour passed, and I realized I thoroughly enjoyed getting slightly tipsy on my own. Cloud formations, sun, rain, sun again. To my right was a small building with a sign reading East Jetty Company. Those guys pick up the Zimbabwean minesweepers every morning and drop them at the minefields. What? You didn't know? There were almost 200,000 mines left after the war. Penguins are too light to set them off, but humans... Rado shrugged. Humans are dumb. On board Stanley Jetty. It was raining cats and dogs all day, but the engine started without any trouble and everybody was up on deck, making jokes and taking photos. Chris, my cabin mate, and the other person on my watch emerged from under the deck with a thermos full of coffee. First, we needed to head south toward Isla de los Estados and later through Le Maire Strait. From Ushuaia, we planned to go around Cape Horn and south to Antarctica and the Le Maire Channel. On the way back, we wanted to go around King George Island. And finally back to Ushuaia. At least, that was the plan. It would take us 5 weeks to sail there and back to Ushuaia. 5 weeks of splendid isolation. I can't wait till we have a full crew. I brought Srado some coffee in his favorite mug, then leaned against the railing. What do you think will hit them first? Seasickness or FOMO? What do you think? I can't remember the voice I gave him. What do you think will hit them first? Seasickness or FOMO? He asked. You're so cruel, I snorted. I'm just getting warm up, he grinned. How are you getting on with them anyway? Fine, I guess. Nice bunch. Setting sail. Our passports were stamped, all our documents were signed, and the tanks had been filled with 320 gallons of fuel. 303. Let me try again. Our passports were stamped, all our documents were signed, and the tanks have been filled with three. Why does it sound so weird? Three. Huh. It's such a simple where we used to read everything. I'm just gonna go with it. 320 gallons of fuel and 1.5 tons of water. We were ready. Go make them work a bit. Let's test our team spirit. I want to see how they handle taking orders from Pixie. I think for today I'll stop here. I was stuck at 3. I have a little difficulty like distinguishing between reading between 3 and 3. I'm like, to me it's the same thing. Oh well. It's a challenge I have to go through. 3. See you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good week today. This week. Bye.